unlicensed. It happened, as a matter of fact, in Houston, where the state actually cracked down and fined several threaders fines of $2,000 or more for being unlicensed. Now, when you think of face threading, you don't necessarily think of it being an injurious type of job, but the reality is you can. At the end of the day, you can cause injury to the face, and a lot of these ladies who are in these salons are really there to try to support their families and support their husbands. They're not necessarily in cosmetology school. They haven't walked away with a license. And in a lot of cosmetology schools, they don't necessarily teach eyebrow threading because it's an Eastern art. It's really more of an Asian Eastern art than an American or a Western one. But it's kind of sad because at the end of the day, these ladies are trying to make a living. But on the other hand, as a consumer, you want to know that you're going to someone who's licensed. So, I was curious, what side of this fence were you all on?
Well, I think it's interesting what they're proposing. A particular case in Texas, they're actually recommending that they do 750 hours of cosmetology class, which can cost up to $15,000 to $20,000. So again, for these women that have been doing it for years, perhaps in their homes and other places, doing 750 hours of teaching, I think is a little excessive. And one of the recommendations I had was to make it similar to what they do for braiding among African Americans, where they've cut back the requirement to about 35 hours. And so it's much cheaper for them to do it, and they get some training, but it's not the same as, say, a cosmetologist that does a lot more invasive procedures.
Yeah, they may not need everything that's required for a full license, yet there are safety concerns, Aastha, like you just raised. It's not just in salons, but now what shopping mall can you walk into without seeing eyebrow threading being done right there at a kiosk in the middle of the mall?
Right, and I'd be interested to go to someone who's licensed, because in the event that something goes wrong, and how many of us have been with a licensed esthetician in a salon and had a cut or marks because of something that has gone wrong, the thread's too sharp or something like that. We've all experienced that. If that gets worse, I'd want to be able to sort of, pursue that with someone.
Of course, the lawyer talks.
I'm trying to say that as nicely as possible, but some people, if you're not held accountable to some standard, you're not going to do a good job. It can't just be about the money. It has to also be about the service that you're providing.
Mm-hmm. To add on to that point, from a medical standpoint, one of the things that they do require if you are licensed is to actually have hot and cold running water, mm-hmm. and to have at a certain dimension the place that you're working out of. So you do want to make sure that the person that's doing your threading actually has clean hands and is washing their hands, and
especially in
between patients.
H1N1 and all these viruses that are floating around, you definitely do need to make sure that you're in a well-sanitized environment, even if you're doing something as simple as eyebrow threading. I hope this doesn't become an issue for our community, especially, mm-hmm. because there's a lot of, I know, ladies who use this as a way to supplement their income, and if you took that away from them, I think then, our community would suffer a bit. So I would like to find some resolution. I understand the governmental concern. Let's hope that it's not just another way for the government to collect more fees and more taxes and more money. That's some of the concern around this as well.
Well, certainly a compromise is in order.
Well, I want to switch gears for a moment here and a call out to all of the Hindi speakers among our viewers. Google is launching a contest to promote more Hindi content on the Internet. They have observed that there's a lack of high-quality Hindi and other Indian language content on the Internet, and so they launched this campaign called Hai Baaton Mein Dum. And in that campaign, they're looking for anyone over the age of 13 to submit content in various different categories: entertainment, politics, travel, sports, and health. So basically, they're looking for all of us who do speak these languages. They're starting with Hindi and then hope to expand beyond that, to actually use the transliteration tool that they have to convert between English and Hindi and produce more, because right now, the World Wide Web is dominated by English, and why not find a way to incorporate more of our own language onto the Internet?
I must say the Google tool for translation mm-hmm. works spectacularly, and I use that on a regular basis in what I do. I do immigration, so that I have a mm-hmm. lot of foreign language documents that I have to deal with. Sometimes I understand what's going on, sometimes I have a translation, sometimes I just need one phrase translated, and if I can cut and paste it into that Google tool, I get a translation that doesn't sound stupid. Sometimes you get translations that just don't make sense, but It translates it into an actual sentence that would be used by a human being, and I love it. And for them to be using this for the Indian languages is phenomenal, because then those of us who might not read Hindi, and or, you know, but maybe just can understand by hearing it or something like that, we can now understand better the text.
I got to tell you, as a technical girl here, I mean, representing the engineering side of the house, this is brilliant for Google to have done this, because if you think about it, they need to build their engine and refine it over time, and the way you do that is to collect content and to exercise this engine on that content to make it better. So open up a contest on the internet and invite the content in. This is one of the reasons why I think Google, at the end of the day, is really going to be the company for Microsoft or Apple or anyone else to chase, because they're just so innovative in the way they think. And they're open sourced about everything. So, you know, here they are trying to provide a service, and then open it up right up. So what they do is they open it right up to the internet and say, come on in, help us build this engine, and we'll sponsor a contest. It's brilliant.
And it doesn't cost Google a thing.
No, they're getting it from their users. They note that there are about 60 million internet users in India, and of these, only 13% of Indian internet users prefer to use English, while the rest are more comfortable using the internet in their own language. So see the potential of the people who would like to access more content in their own language, but basically the content's not there right now. And for those of you who are interested, the deadline is January 31st, 2010.
Well, the big news in the sports world is that Tiger Woods announced he's going into indefinite hiatus. And I think probably the bigger question for us women is, what's with the Barbie doll complex? It seems that most of these women that have surfaced that he's had these relationships with all seem to be pretty much in the same mold. They're all blonde, they're all thin, very curvaceous in some ways. And I think it brings up an interesting question about him. And the women themselves are not professionals. They are porn stars. I mean, I guess you could consider that a profession, but porn stars, cocktail waitresses, that's right, hostesses, women that perhaps are not exactly in the same part intellectually as him. And it certainly has been, there's lots of therapists now that have actually put out their review as well, and they say that it may have something to do with his own insecurity and his own kind of self-conscious abilities, and also perhaps that he wants to be more powerful than his women. What do you think?
I think it also has something to do with he knows that he can get anything he wants. And probably at one point someone rejected him who was tall, blonde, and curvaceous, and now that he's, you know, a big megastar in the golfing industry, he can have anything he wants, and literally he has anything he wants.
I mean, I think it's a little bit sad. I don't think his love life is any of our business, but I do think it's sad what fame very early in life can do to a person when it goes sort of unchecked, and there may be some psychological or insecurity issues, like you mentioned. Why is there this pattern of behavior? Because in many ways it's self-destructive, right? This is not benefiting him in any way. If anything, he's lost a lot of his image.